What's up, guys? I'm Isaac here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, and I have your new bike of the week, this 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Now, the reason we brought this bike out today is because this is our demo bike. So this is one that we've dedicated to letting people go on test rides with, so folks that really want to try what the 2024 Harley-Davidsons are all about. This is typically the one that we recommend. The cool thing about this one is that we went ahead and we took the Harley-Davidson parts and accessories catalog, we flipped through it with the big red crayon and circled the items that we wanted to go ahead and put on this bike to show not only what new motorcycles are being offered for this year, but what new parts and accessories are coming along with them. Now, the only non-Harley part that is on this bike is from Rinehart, and that's with the slip-ons that we went ahead and put on this bike just to go ahead and make this motorcycle sound a little more like a motorcycle. Now, the biggest things you're going to see that we've done to it: backrest for a passenger. We did put one of Harley's new seats on this bike. Handlebar setup off the CVO ST, so it's more moto style bars, and instead of all the height coming from just the bar, it also comes from this taller riser. And we did the Roxford Falls gate, upgraded inner speakers there, and we also did the paint matched inner fairing. And I'll go ahead and say, if you have a 24 Grand American Touring bike, you need to go ahead and get that paint matched inner fairing. Pretty much changes the whole look of the bike, and it makes for an overall better view for the rider. So those are just some of the features that we went ahead and put on this bike to make it stand out a little bit more. So you're working with your still Milwaukee 8 powertrain, you still have a 6th gear, but it is a 117 Milwaukee 8 with liquid cooled heads, and there's no longer just an oil cooler down below. Now it's actually a full radiator. You're actually pumping water through the heads on these bikes. So it's helping that bike stay a little bit cooler, so now you can also run them a little bit harder and you can get a little bit more power out of it. It's still the whole redesigned fairing and body work on this bike, a new set of wheels, and it's a lot of new tech in here. So new control layout, so if you're used to the old style Road Glides where your volume is on this side and you would control the screen with this side, that's actually been flipped. So now your volume is all over here with the right side. Yeah, so there's a lot of real fun stuff to go into on these bikes. But what I'm going to go into is I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what it's like to live with these bikes. I actually had the opportunity to really put this bike through its paces. I was able to ride it and actually get a few miles under it, so I could really get a lot more familiar with the new Road Glide. It's a pretty good chance this is what the new Road Glides are going to be like going forward now. Power delivery, the braking, all that was fantastic. Compared to the previous generation Road Glide, it definitely felt like it handled better. I mean, it's a little bit lighter, so when you stand it right up, it feels good. And there happened to be a handful of sport bikes parked where I was, and it was really neat to see how this bike stood out to those, but also how it sort of blended in. So it's much sharper styling, much more aggressive, and just the way that this bike blended in with some of the other ones, it was pretty neat. You know, I actually was talking to a few of them and, you know, had a handful of them sit on the bike and stand it up, and everyone was pretty amazed of just how light this bike was. And it's really making that Grand American Touring line much more manageable for a lot of folks. You know, younger riders that maybe don't want as heavy of a bike, or older riders that also might not want as heavy of a bike. So it's just a really great improvement on an already fantastic design. And so it's still, you know, this is still Road Glide, so the fairing's still independent of the bars, so you still move that wheel around all day. Another big change is that actually instead of you just lifting up on the glove boxes, now it's a little bit fancier. Now you just press and it's got little shocks, so it slowly opens back up just like that, then you push it back down to lock it, so you don't just try to force it open there. I'll go and talk about some of the nuances I had with the bike. The first thing is I really like to put my helmet somewhere on the bike. If it's not right here, I don't like to scuff up the bag. Typically, I like to put it inside my fairing, at least on my Softail, but I really didn't want the helmet to hit that screen. So then I wanted to put it on top of the mirror like I would on some other bikes. But I noticed that when I put it on, I accidentally hit the power switch right over here. You kind of got to play around with that a little bit more, so you don't just throw your helmet up on top. You might accidentally put the bike in the run position, so that's something to keep in mind. But that's, again, small things. If that's the biggest issue I have with the bike, then, you know. Another thing was kind of the ergonomics up here. So one thing I had an issue with was really trying to adjust the controls while I was holding that steady throttle hand. Most of the other controls on the left side, I mean, those felt pretty good, especially like trying to change the mode button while I had the throttle on. That was a little bit tricky. But I did find a neat little trick where you could actually just push the underside of the turn signals, and that works out pretty well. I do still have a gripe with the hazard button. You do still have to reach across the kill switch to hit that hazard button. For a shorter rider, the ergonomics on this one weren't quite for me. This one thing I did notice that these newer seats, they really give you a lot more leg room, And at least the way I had these bars rolled forward, it was a little bit trickier for me. It was a much more aggressive stance than I would have liked. But at least the riding I've done with how the stock seat and bars are, it feels really good for a really large number of riders. But I'll show you on this one. To really cruise on it, it was very, you kind of had to sit back, and then you were pretty forward. So it wasn't kind of the most comfortable. I mean, you're pretty stretched out. I mean, if I was a much taller rider, then this would be perfect right here. So it's nice knowing that you have those options. But probably the stock bar and seat setup would have been a little bit better for somebody of my height. And I do really like the fuel cap. I had to put some gas in it that night. So put some gas in and just a little fuel latch door there. I mean, that's a really nice feature. So you don't have a cap you have to go figure out where to stick anymore. Now I did go ahead and use the full capabilities of the Bluetooth to this headset as well as a phone. So I had my phone connected to the bike, then I had the bike connected to my headset. When I was using the speakers in my helmet, I was able to control the volume right here with the bike, which was really nice. One of the other gripes I had was that it was a little slow connecting everything. So I mean, you want to go hop on the bike, in between short runs, it's just cut the bike on and go. But this one, it was a little more, cut this on, cut the bike on, cut the other one on. And it would be a little bit slow connecting them. So I was kind of sitting there a little bit, letting it idle. That wasn't the worst thing, but it was just a little bit slower than with the previous gen, because it's a lot of tech and a pretty big computer to get booted up. But when I had everything connected, it was a really good experience. It was nice to just have my phone in the deep glove boxes and be able to do pretty much everything I wanted to right here. And so that was, playing around with the screen. I could have pretty much everything I wanted up there, especially with the CarPlay. That was a really nice feature too, being able to have that all plugged up and show what I wanted to right through there. I ran the bike through its paces a little bit. I kind of tried to see how it is to ride it a little bit more aggressively. I mean, they hustle. There's a lot of really good power. It's a ton of fun to go ride around. And I also did it at night so I could really see where that headlight's at. And it's a very bright headlight. I really love how this bike looks from all the way around it. It's super visible, especially with those side lights. Not only do they look good, but it really changes the profile. So then it's much easier to see the broadside of the bike from other traffic that might be beside you. One thing I noticed with the really bright headlight was it was great, but I did notice it felt like it was aimed a little bit lower than I might have liked. So it definitely seemed like it's very easy to outrun that headlight. Now, when you just flip your high beam on, you're good to go. Yeah, it's a really good wide band of light, and you can see really well with that. So I'm very impressed with the stock headlight on this bike. I do know there's probably already some aftermarket setups there for it, but the stock headlight on it, I mean, it's really good. And now, since we're coming up in the summer months, I was able to play around with the Willy Wings a little bit there. So I was able to kind of open these up, get a little bit more airflow around that fairing. So I had the force of the wind off me, but I was able to still keep nice and cool there behind it, which is a really nice balance to have. And speaking of keeping cool, and I was able to get stuck in traffic there a little bit. I know it was hard. It was looking for traffic to get stuck in, which is always funny because then you can't find any traffic. But it's rallies, we were able to find a little bit for sure. And so I was able to let the bike get a little bit hotter, see how it cooled off, and it was great. Really seeing how it managed itself and was able to help regulate its own temperature a lot better, even in that stop and go traffic. I mean, it did a great job. I had some camera gear with me, and I was able to fill up the saddlebags, and I had plenty of room, and they're nice locking saddlebags. So I mean, it's just nice to be able to drop your shoulder bag in there with a laptop and a camera, lock it up, go into the restaurant, and not have to worry about it. It felt very stable at highway speeds, just riding down the highway. I just sent it down 40 for a little bit, just see what it's like. And it was great. It was just super stable, and you could tell it was just ready to go there across some state lines for sure. But overall, those were my first impressions of the 2024 Road Glide, and being able to truly spend some time with it, live with it a little bit, put it in my garage and see what it's like to wake up beside every morning. But it was good to spend a little bit more time with it and see some of those more nuances with the bikes, and then really see some of the nicer features about it. It's nice having the little pointer finger headlight switch. It's really nice to customize that screen display so I can see the exact features I want. See my tire pressure before I go out for the ride in the morning. It's a lot of really great features. If you like tech, it's got most of the tech you could want up there already. Great power, great braking, and still plenty of opportunity to really customize it and really make this motorcycle your own. So if you have any questions about this 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide or any of the Grand American Touring lineup, then be sure to stop here. It's Back Road Harley-Davidson and come see us. So in the meantime, ride safe, and we'll see you soon.